Our next treat is a friend of mine and somebody I've gotten to know this last year is Stuart Smith, and he's with Citrus Solutions Carpet Cleaning. He's a franchise owner, and he's the National Director for Franchise Operations for Citrus Solutions. And he's committed to helping veterans find the right career and serve the community while he's doing it at the same time. He's a Rotarian, and he lives up to the motto of Rotary International, which is service above self, which is something I really admire. Stu's goal is to put 1,000 veterans to work in their own business. So I'm going to ask Stu to share a little bit about himself, and he's going to tell us a little bit about his history and what he's trying to do with this company. Come on up. Welcome.
Good morning. Wow, what a great opportunity. I am absolutely humbled by the opportunity to stand here and share with you a little bit about my experience. And I certainly want to start with thanks. I would encourage us all to remember it is but by the grace of God that we're here, and that giving thanks is a big part of that. So Mr. Harvin, thanks for the introduction, and General Harris, thanks for your speech, especially around your codes. I'm going to try to tie some of my words into the codes that I heard from you. And also thanks to Rob Pickett. Folks, I've been all around the world and all through the United States, both as a military brat and as a service member myself. And I've worked with economic development efforts and community colleges, two-year colleges, all across the United States. And without exception, Rob has just a wonderful program. So I want to just say thanks, and let's give them all a round of applause. Wonderful. Thank you very much. I also want to thank somebody that you don't know and is not here in the room, Sergeant Major Toms. As Rob mentioned, I'm a veteran, 6 years, 8 months, 8 days. Not that anybody was counting, right? But when you get that DD-214 and you get the opportunity to move on, it is with a sense of pride that you do so, and mostly it's because of the people that you met. And Sergeant Major Toms taught me a couple things. One of the most important lessons, and he was always one that gives you those lessons and those things that you can always remember, right? Those words that you can always remember. And I remember when Sergeant Major Toms came to the NCO Academy, he was a little bit older, toward the end of his career, and I was a young buck staff sergeant, and I used to love to run his little legs off. Buddy, I tell you what, I knew the course, and I knew how to get from point A to point B. Sergeant Major Toms would come out there, and he'd run, and he'd run, and he'd run. And he'd always be behind me when we finished. And guess what? One day, where was Sergeant Major Toms? At the finish line waiting for me. And that lesson that he taught me was, you know, Sergeant Smith, some days you eat the bear, some days the bear eats you. And that persistence, that ability to keep moving, even if you're winning or you're losing, was one of those key lessons. The other one that he taught me, because I was the consummate planner, he drew upon the words of a famous general that said, you know what, the plan only lasts until they start shooting at you, right? And so in my talk today, I have a plan, but I want to modify my plan based on the lessons that I learned as a military Army NCO. How many of you here are, by a show of hand, how many of you are service providers? How many of you are providing a service? How many of you are out there in that area? Good, good. I want to customize my talk a little bit because when I planned it, I planned to talk to veterans who were looking for an opportunity. And I'm going to do that. But I also want to talk to you as providers. Because here's the message I want to share with you. I want you to recognize that it is our job as service providers, as veterans, to help, to never, ever turn our back on a fellow veteran, and to help them get where they need to go. So if you listen to me and you find a veteran who wants to own their own business, who wants to have an exciting opportunity and wants to do it through franchise, you get them to me, and I will help you help them. So I want to customize some of my words to you so that it makes sense for you as you talk to other veterans. So let's just briefly cover what I'm going to talk about. First of all, this is about opportunity. It's about entrepreneurship, specifically entrepreneurship for veterans through franchises. I've done a lot of work with veterans ever since I left the service. And I ran into a great human being named Paul Romanek. And we met at a veteran support breakfast. And this was 7 years ago. And I was doing all sorts of different work. And Paul said, you know, if you keep your passion fired up, Stu, you're going to do great things. And lo and behold, we did great things together for veterans through entrepreneurship, through franchising. And I tell you that story to tell you this, that the opportunity lies for veterans, especially those returning from these current conflicts, in entrepreneurship and in franchising. Here's my experience. I can't tell you the number of veterans that I've run into who've come back, who've had grave and significant responsibilities, who've been in charge of and responsible for the lives of others, for the equipment given to them, to accomplish a mission that few of us would ever sign up for, knowingly. And when they come back, they want to go back to work. And the number of times I've had them come to me and say, listen, I've done all these things. I went to this company and I told them who I was. I did everything that they asked me. And they told me to sit in this cube, sit down and shut up. And they leave. In fact, the turnover rate's about 70% for the first job they take after they come back. So entrepreneurship is an opportunity for these folks to come back and in many ways experience the same level of complexity and stress and opportunity and excitement. So there's more than just going to work. There's entrepreneurship. The other thing that I'm going to talk about is the fact that this opportunity is for 1% of us. That's it. That's the percentage of people who go into business on their own through franchising. That means that 99% of all others have done something else. So when you find that person who maybe has gone to that job and been turned away or been frustrated by what they're experiencing, and you're going, where can I get them to go to work? And they seem to you to be that 1%er, or you are that 1%er. Take the risk. Because other than some of the risks that you experienced in the service, some of those gut-tightening experiences on assignment, or the first time your knees were to breeze and the jump master said, it's time to go, or the first time that you ducked when live fire came in on you, other than those kinds of risks, starting your own business is probably just below that. It's a controlled terror, but it's terrifying. So if you're a 1%er, you know a 1%er, I'm speaking to you today. The other thing that I'd like to talk about is the opportunity to move. Not thinking about moving. Not planning to move. Not letting fear keep you back. Not letting your doubts, your self-critics, or what happened yesterday hold you back. Just like the general said, I want to talk about moving, taking action. So I'm going to do that in context to talking about franchising. And I'm going to talk about that through what I call the SMART model of franchising. Let me lay this out for you real quick. So many times we know, specific, measurable, attainable, relevant, time limited, right? That SMART acronym. So I've modified it a little bit. A successful model, an attainable business, relationship-based, and turnkey operation. For me, those things, those 5 things with S&M put together on the front of that, those are what a franchise is all about. And I want to talk about those a little bit. Finally, before I start talking about each of these components as we go through this acronym SMART, I want to talk to you about what's going on with me. I'm not just talking about this opportunity. As Rob mentioned, I bought all the franchise opportunities in Brevard County for a carpet cleaning business. So guess what, folks? You got up this morning, put on your suit and tie, put on your jewelry, made sure you look good, put on your name tag, come listen to a carpet cleaner. So if you're in the wrong place, let me know. But let me tell you what this means to me, because franchises, by definition, are a distribution model. They're an efficient way to get products and services to market. But by definition, for me, it's a means to an end. Rob talked about my effort of putting 1,000 veterans into business. That's actually incorrect. I only need 998 because I got my first 2. All right? So that goal out there, that persistence that the general talked about, and that wanting to get these folks back to work through entrepreneurship because of the conditions they experience on service is what I'm all about. And franchises are just a means to an end. Now, just like in the service, does it mean that you have to humble yourself if you choose a franchise? Does it mean that you might have to flip hamburgers? Does it mean that you might have to look up to your customer on your hands and knees with a wet rag, cleaning up her baseboard to let her know that you're doing a good job? Yes, it does. Yes, it does. That's what it means. But it also means the opportunity to achieve what you want to achieve. And I want 1,000 folks to have the same opportunity that I do. So I'm living that experience. And I'm also lucky, like the general said. I think it is a matter of preparation meeting opportunity. And that's what that's all about. So what is a franchise? Let me just ask. I'm going to come around from the podium. I think I can project far enough. When you all think about a franchise, what are some of the things that come to mind? Let me give you some examples. When you think of the Ace Hardware of the world, the Chick-fil-A's of the world, what do you think of? What comes to mind when you think franchise? Consistency, right? What else?
Turnkey.
Turnkey. Thanks, Justin. What else?
Big initial investment.
Big initial investment. Absolutely. What else?
And quality.
Good deal. Absolutely. These are some of the components of franchising. Let me ask you this. This is a little test. See about your business acumen, your savvy. So you have an opportunity to buy a business. Here are the conditions of this business. Extremely high turnover. Huge initial investment. Huge operating costs. Razor thin margin. You have to do thousands of transactions just to make some money. Ready to sign up? Let me flip the coin. The world's largest food service provider, a nationally recognized veteran employment support system, and one of the world's greatest corporate universities. And if you qualify, and we'll help you qualify, and if you have the investment, and we'll help you with the investment, you will be immensely successful. You ready to sign up now? It's the same opportunity. What is it? It's McDonald's. That's right. It's McDonald's. It's the same opportunity. And that's what I'm going to ask you, especially as service providers, to recognize. It's these 1%ers, these folks with passion who want to do something different. It's just finding the right opportunity for them. And it may look like a big pile of mess to you on the right-hand side or left-hand side of the ledger, and on the right-hand side of the ledger, it looks like something amazing for them. Ray Kroc took the same look at McDonald's. McDonald's was owned by a man named Mac McDonald and his brother. And Ray Kroc was selling ice cream machine or milkshake machines to him. That's the story, right? But Ray Kroc didn't see the left-hand side of the ledger. He saw the right-hand side of the ledger. Would it surprise you to know that there were people who saw the left-hand side of the ledger? The owner of Burger King took a look at McDonald's and said no. The owner of Taco Bell took a look at McDonald's and said no. But Ray Kroc said yes. And he turned it into a successful business, and he turned it into a successful franchise. So franchises, by definitions, are opportunities for you to get from where you are today to where you want to be. Especially if you want to be an entrepreneur, or the people that you're working with want to be an entrepreneur. So let's break this down just a little bit around this SMART model. And I'm going to keep track of time here because I know when you're in these speaking positions, the only thing between you and the next break, or the only thing between you and the next break is me, right? So I want to keep on time. So let's talk about this. So a successful model. So obviously Ray Kroc took this model that the McDonald's brothers had put together and turned it not only into a successful restaurant model, turned it into a successful franchise model. And so for either you or the people that you're working with, that's one of the advantages if they want a path to entrepreneurship. It is a successful model by definition. In other words, the franchisor has taken their business and turned it into a model that works. And by that I mean that they have established all the policies and procedures, processes and techniques and tools and all those kinds of things to help somebody be successful. Guess what? That's all it is a successful model. What you make of it, or the folks you work with, what they make of it, is that means to the end. Okay? And so, when you talk to folks about franchising, and there's a lot of ways that people can explore franchising, and I'm not going to bore you with all the organizations that do that. Those folks can find that. And oh, by the way, Rod and his group can help those folks find that, right? But just know that model needs to fit what they're trying to accomplish. All right. The other thing about franchises is they're an attainable business, right? That's the A in SMART. And here's what I mean by that. For most people considering going into business on their own, they have a great idea. Right? I have an idea. I have a passion. Maybe it's a hobby that's extended into business opportunity. Maybe it's just something that's in the family that they're going to take on. Maybe it's something that they've seen somebody else be successful. So they have an idea. The franchise provides the attainable business to them in that they have a successful model and they're going to sell it to you. They're going to sell you the rights to do that. So you're buying a business in a box. And for many people who want to become entrepreneurs, that's an awesome opportunity. Why wouldn't you take the opportunity to take the successful model and take all the things that they built for you and operate with them? So you have a greater chance of success. So when you're speaking to people, or you're one of those people that are deciding about being an entrepreneur, find out what their means to the end is, just like mine, and find out if that business, that successful model, that attainable business, is going to get them where they want to go through this method of franchising. And so there are lots of ways to investigate this attainable business, and the recommendations are all over as far as how to look at franchises. Here's a couple things, hints from how Louise if they work. Make sure they match your values. Make sure it's something that you want to do. Make sure it meets your end goals. Those types of things. Those are more important. And then, of course, there's all the mechanics, right? Make sure you look at the franchise disclosure document. You go visit the home office. You talk to other people in the franchise business, what they're doing. Their reputation, especially for franchises, is everything. So success model and attainable business. And then there's this idea that it's relationship-based. Franchises, by definition, are all about relationships. Although founded on the franchise disclosure document, it's all about a relationship. Just like a marriage is founded on a marriage license and that kind of contractual relationship, when things go bad in a marriage, very few of us go back in the closet and dig out the license and say, wait a second, you said, right? For us as franchisors, if you get to that point where you're looking for your marriage license, you're looking for your FDD, then the relationship has fallen apart. So franchises are built on relationships. So if you're looking at a franchise or you're giving advice and guidance to those who are looking for a franchise, make sure that they understand the relationship with the franchisor. Not only the legal side of it, but their values, their end goals, their reputation, all those things are more critically important. Just like a marriage license to a marriage, that FDD to a franchise relationship is an important part, but it doesn't define the relationship. So we've covered successful model, attainable business, relationship-driven. Let's talk about turnkey operation. The other thing that franchises do for folks that accelerate their success in entrepreneurship is they typically provide them everything they need other than real estate or renting a space in order to start their business. Now think about that. There's somebody who wants to become an entrepreneur and they want to go into business themselves. Let's say they want to start a landscaping business. Do they even know what a commercial landscaping, lawnmower costs, or how much fuel costs and all that kind of stuff? Franchisors have already figured that out for folks. So they basically give them a business in a box, an opportunity for a turnkey operation. As soon as you pay your franchise fee and you get your equipment, you get set up, you're ready to go to business. Go into business. You're ready to start making money. So those are the components for me, from a franchise perspective, that make sense. It's a successful model. It is an attainable business. It's based on relationship, and it's turnkey operation. So that for me is important things if you're going to either go into business yourself or you're going to share with folks what a franchise opportunity is all about. And finally, the question always has to be asked, is going into business, being an entrepreneur, or opening up a franchise, is it right for you? Here's what I encourage you to think about. And here's what I encourage you to encourage others to think about. Get them, just like the general said with your values, get them to write things down. Get them to tell you what their life should look like, or you write down what your life should look like in the future. That's what I did. When I bought into a carpet cleaning business, I'd been a successful consultant for 7 years. I'd worked with folks like Chick-fil-A, Centers for Disease Control, World Vision, which is the world's largest Christian relief organization. And I decided that for me to get from where I was at to where I wanted to be in the future, I'd have to be on my hands and knees cleaning somebody's baseboard. You need to get that in your head, or help that other person get that in their head about what the future should look like for them and how they're going to get there. Because if I would have kept consulting, I would have kept traveling about 20 to 30 weeks a year. And to travel meant that I took time away from helping other veterans because I couldn't be there. That meant that I took time away from my family because I couldn't be there. That meant that I just basically bought myself a job consulting, and I wanted to create a business that could be a legacy. So I couldn't get there. So get them to write down what it is that they want and to be able to articulate that. The second thing is there's so many tools to get to know yourself. Whether you use the DISC or the Myers-Briggs or some other assessment, either you yourself or the folks that you're coaching and helping and guiding, get them to take one of those assessments. Many of them are free online. Many of them are focused on entrepreneurship. I'm sure that Rob, if you go to his center, he can help you help them assess their attitude and capabilities toward entrepreneurship, because it ain't for everybody. It's for about 1% of us. Not that the other 99%, what they do is not valued. That's not the point. But wouldn't it be better if you put that person in the right path on that 1%, then you encourage them to join the 99%, which they can't succeed. So opening up a franchise or going into business is all about understanding what it is that you want to achieve in the future, knowing yourself, and having somebody help you with that. Like the general said, and like Sergeant Major Tom's, the example I offered before, there is nothing more critical than a coach. Whether it's your spouse, your brother, your cousin, whatever the case may be, or somebody professional that's hired, find yourself a coach. Because there's an old adage that says a system cannot see itself. And what that adage says is many times we're just so busy doing stuff, we don't see what happens when we're doing that stuff. Somebody outside of us, a coach, somebody can provide us objective, honest feedback, can see what we're doing, and can help guide our actions. So if you're thinking about going into business for yourself, or you're thinking about encouraging somebody to go into business for yourself, encourage them to find a coach. I'm going to encourage you as service providers. Here's my challenge to you, which is why I asked the question earlier. I know you have a job, but you have an obligation. Your job may be to get a veteran into your business. Your job may be to help train a veteran. Your job may be to do other things for veterans. But you have an obligation to help them. And how you exercise or execute that obligation speaks a lot to who you are. And so I would encourage you to be a coach, to be that objective person for a veteran who might be looking for a job, who might be struggling a little bit. And there's so many resources, right? In the room, in that back corner, in that blue shirt with his lovely wife, Kim, is one of this community's greatest resources of coaching and supporting, right? And the AVET project. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. In that corner of the room is an unbelievable resource in suit and tie who works at the Chamber of Commerce, who understands this community. And they can help you be that resource for that veteran. In that corner of the room is the education resources that you need to help with that veteran. And I'll challenge you that in the seat you're sitting in is the resource that you should be. That's the obligation side. And how you execute that obligation means a lot to not only the veteran, but also to the community. So let's talk a little bit about next steps. First of all, I hope that, to be honest, I hope my passion shine through about what it means to help veterans, help them get in business, and do the things that you need to do to start a business. And if franchising is right for them, I tell you, it's a great opportunity for folks. But if you're thinking about it, or you're coaching somebody to think about it, they can go through the traditional process. That's where I encourage them to start. Start with Rob, get on the internet, start talking to our investigating franchises. But here's the side that's non-traditional that I found personally accelerates the entire process. If you're a veteran and you're looking for an opportunity, get involved with other veterans. It's like having a battle buddy, right? It's like having that person right by your side. You don't even need to look to your right or left. You know that they're there. So find that person who can help you out, right? And to get through this. Find that network. And it doesn't have to be formal. It can be at your VFW. It can be at the Brevard Veterans Center. It can be at AMVETS. You can give somebody a call. Maybe the general might be willing, not to put you on the spot, maybe the general might be willing to take you on as a young executive thinking about government contracting and to help you out. So find those folks. And to the general's point, expose yourself. Not to fire, but expose yourself to opportunity. Get out there and mix and mingle. You know you're doing things right when you're uncomfortable. Right? You know you're doing things right when you're walking into that building on that lump in your throat. You're wondering, what the hell am I doing here? Right? Why am I taking this risk this afternoon? Go in there and meet those people. Shake their hands. Tell them who you are. Tell them what your dreams are. And let them know that they can help you, as in turn you can help them. Right? So I set out to do a couple things. First of all, talk about what entrepreneurship is, and then frame it within this idea of franchising and go through this SMART model, and then talk about taking action. I'm toward the end of my time in this kind of formal presentation. So like the general, I'll stop and hush for a moment. My wife would be so proud of me, because it doesn't happen often. And I'll entertain questions or comments. Please.
From the moment you get interested in a franchise, whether it's one that you're running or like you said, McDonald's, give an average estimate as to how much time it takes from beginning to opening the doors, getting thought in your head to opening the doors.
Yeah, it takes all of it. It takes all of your time. And it depends on the franchise, to be honest. Let me give you an example. I told you that I work with Chick-fil-A on the other side of my world, but I also understand their franchising. Chick-fil-A may keep you as a franchise candidate for years. I'm not joking, folks. Because you can buy a Chick-fil-A franchise. It's second only to Subway as the most or the least expensive franchise. That may surprise you. But I tell you what, Tim Kasopoulos and his group up there, they only take the folks that they want. So it can be like that, or it can literally be a franchise that the opportunity is as soon as you buy your equipment, you can get to work. Let me give you an example with Citrus Solutions. Come in, we actually give veterans a couple things. We give them a 25% franchise fee discount. 25%, real money. We'll finance $10,000 of that opportunity. We'll put you into a week's worth of training, and that next Monday you're going to work. Right? So it can work on the two extremes, so it depends on the franchise. Great question. Any other question? Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was wondering about when you market a franchise to somebody, who takes care of like the SWOT analysis? Do you do any kind of analysis?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, you're going to open up this kind of thing, it's like McDonald's, you know,
Mhm.
there's like 3 McDonald's in one location. You say, well, it may not be a good idea to open McDonald's there.
Absolutely.
Do you have a steam cleaning or?
Yeah, so thanks for the question, and let me clarify the acronym. So SWOT, strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats, part of the strategic planning process. So the question is, do you do some sort of analysis to let folks know it's a good place to open up a business or not open up a business? Yes. Other franchises might be a lot more sophisticated than this than we are. I was smiling because reflecting on a situation that has to do with this. So real quick, I had a great business plan, right? Weighed the right amount of weight, and had all the right components. And I went into a banker here in this community. And I said, listen, I got this great idea, and I'm all fired up, right, ready to go. Here's what I'm going to do, blah, blah, blah. And he puts his hand up, and he literally puts his hand up in my face and says, stop right there, because I'm not lending you a $1. My hand, that's the truth, that's exactly right. Stop right there, I'm not letting you eat that. He goes, turn over to your competitor's page. And I have listed in there 84 competitors in the bar market who at one time or another said that they did carpet cleaning work. When I broke it all down, there's about 10 or 11 really competitive folks that I work with, I work against. And so yes, you do that work, but at the same time, if you believe the hand, or you believe that there really are 84 competitors out there, you might as well take your business plan and go on home. Seriously. Because you're going to get so many hands and you're going to get some, it'll never work. Right? So thanks for that question. Yes, you do some competitive analysis, but at the same time, what's your competitive advantage? Are you really comparing your competitors to competitors? By the way, Citrus Solution is not a C9 vehicle, so right, you don't do that type of cleaning process. So we're in a different niche and so on and so forth. So great question. Any other question? I really would love a question. Does anybody have somebody who's working with them, or anybody in the audience who's considering going into business themselves? Anybody have somebody they're working with, or you're considering going into business yourself? Rob, I'd love a question from you. If you're working with somebody, what do they need to know?
I liked your suggestion to assess yourself. And we have a 50 question test, very simple, that I took. I got a 22. So I didn't be professional for entrepreneurship. It doesn't mean I'm stupid.
Absolutely not.
I'm married to somebody who is very entrepreneurial and has been self-employed for years and years.
Yeah.
So I understand that there are gifts. I talk people out of going into business pretty often.
Good for you.
And as if they can get past, if Doug to go ahead and do it,
Yeah, if you can.
I try to talk them out of it.
Right, if you get
They
past
have a
that.
better chance of success.
Absolutely. So for those of you who are service providers, listen to what Rob's saying. Make sure that they understand what they're getting into. Tell them no a couple times, and if they're hard-headed enough like me, then support them a whole lot, right? If they're dumb enough to do it, then let them do it after you told them no 3 times.
I've read the video, see, we work only with veterans. We've been successful with veterans who locate by franchise.
Wonderful.
One of the big questions that we get, what's the startup cost?
Yeah, and it varies, and don't just believe the FDD or what's on the page, right? Because it's not only the cost of investment, but it's the cost to run your home and do all the things that you've done for 6 to 12 months. And if they don't have that money readily available, then you need to tell them no as a good coach and counselor. And you tell them, go back to work, save the money you need to save in addition to your franchise fee, so you don't quit before it's time to quit. And people got to have a large threshold or appetite for risk. Because in Rob's test, I probably get a 51. Right? Because I'm dumb enough just to try. It is 10:19. The only thing between me or between you and a break is me. Again, I just thank you very, very much for the opportunity. What a humbling experience to be here with you. I'll be here for a little while at the conference until about noon, because what do I have to do this afternoon? Go clean carpets. That's right. So thank you very much, and Rob, thanks for the opportunity.